are emerging from a long spiritual winter, and we are the light of self-acceptance that allows the sun to shine brightly on what is to be. I think we are stepping into a renaissance. But boy, the end of it sure feels tricky, doesn't it? To truly step into our light is admitting that we perhaps may want to step forth with the courage to live authentically as our full, diverse selves. There's something that you said, Kate, in your offering that made me think about the notion of diversity. And we often talk about diversity as diversity among, communities and how we are all expressing ourselves in diverse ways. But really, there's an inner diversity within each and every one of us. Like, we are all wildly diverse within ourselves, right? And we don't often talk about that aspect of diversity. So I invite us all to truly live authentically, allowing every aspect of our fully diverse selves to express wholeheartedly and with abandon. And here's the question that I think will help us release any challenge around that. Because I think we sometimes are held back from expressing our full, diverse, authentic selves by asking this question internally: well, what if they don't like me? What if they don't like me? Oh gosh, that is a stopper. That is a stopper for you expressing who you are. We can get caught up in the made-up opinions of other people. And they are made up because here's the thing: if we are not telling our story as our diverse, authentic selves, then we are going to make up a story about how we interact with others. And it may not be in alignment with our authentic, diverse selves. I'm going to just set these down. So we are diversity in expression. Diversity in expression is the expression of our divinity. And so today, let us truly honor that. Let us truly honor that. Today is an invitation. Yes, thank you. Woo! Today is an invitation to honor what Emerson referred to as the iron string. Now, you may have gotten the email on Friday and said, the iron string is the message title? What does that mean? It is a reference to Emerson in his essay on self-reliance. If you don't know about that essay, that is a significant essay that was very prevalent in the development of New Thought. So Ralph Waldo Emerson, of course, being one of the transcendentalists, wrote these series of essays. The founders of every New Thought tradition essentially said, if you are not reading Emerson on a consistent and regular basis, then you are doing yourself a disservice. Now, I also get it. Emerson is like, we're pushing 200 years ago. So the language is challenging for people in a contemporary setting. But I'll tell you what, if you really get into it, it's really some really awesome stuff there. His essay on self-reliance, he offers this analogy. He refers to the iron string. The iron string. And I'll tell you, when I first read that, when I was reading Emerson's essays a million years ago, I was like, what does that mean, the iron string? And I started thinking about the notion of what that could be. So first of all, the string means that it has flexibility. And the iron means that it can be unbroken. So we are unbroken flexibility of the divine. We are the unbroken flexibility of the divine. We can allow ourselves to express as the iron string, recognizing that there's an inner resonance of self-trust, and that string vibrates uniquely in every single person. We are each a unique tuning within the infinite iron string. So the invitation today is to acknowledge that, to celebrate that, and to truly step into feeling joy. Feeling joy, and allowing that joy to be rooted in the promise of this emergence from the long, cold, lonely winter, and that we are emerging both communally and spiritually. That's what is happening. Hmm. Can you tell I get excited by this stuff? That uniquely vibrating string, the self-reliant resonance expresses in infinite diversity as it is expressing as each and every one of us. It's not just resonating in the beautiful spring flowers. It's not just resonating in, I talked about the saguaro blossoms. It's everywhere, and we are part of that. It is in the beauty of our differences, identities, and voices that iron spring is expressing itself magnificently. And so, the call for each and every one of us is this, Emerson writes, trust thyself. Every heart vibrates to that iron string. The iron string of trust. We can live within the trust of that strong and flexible aspect of being. That essay, Self-Reliance, was revolutionary when it was written. I often, have referred to the development of New Thought as revolutionaries and rebels, really pushing against what was commonly accepted at the time in terms of spiritual philosophy. So self-reliance is a seed that allowed that magnificent expression to come into being. It is a declaration. Self-reliance was a declaration that the inner voice within each and every one of us, that inner voice is divine. And that means that inner voice is trustworthy, it is sacred, and it is necessary to the full expression of our beingness. So that iron string is not hard, it is not rigid, it is strong and unwavering. And it is vibrating with a deep inner frequency of authenticity. We are each the inner frequency of authenticity shining forth. The vibration of our soul in alignment with what I like to refer to as spiritual truth. That's what the iron string is. It is the vibration of our soul in alignment with truth. Now, when we each vibrate with truth, here's what I think happens. We cannot create discord. But there are plenty of people moving about this plane of action right now who I don't think necessarily, and this is not meant to be a judgment, it's an observation, it's not a criticism, but I think I see many people who are moving through life not in vibration with infinite spiritual truth, and therefore discord becomes part of their expression. They thrive in discord. That's why this philosophy for me has benefited, I think, my life, because what I came to know is that if I know the truth of who I am, I cannot deny that about any other person, and within that I find harmony. Because if I know who I am, I must know who you are. As I look out on the faces of each and every one of you, all I see is the face of God. That's all I see. And what a blessing it is to understand and know and see only the face of God. Not just in you, but in every person I encounter. Every time I go to Starbucks, I see the faces of God in the baristas. I see the faces of God in the people that come by the drive-through window. I see the faces of God in every single person who is sitting in those cafes. I see the face of God. I choose to see the face of God everywhere I go, and that is a choice. It is a choice to vibrate with that spiritual truth, because what do I believe the truth is? God is, I am, you are, and so it is. And we say this every single week. The encouragement to remember who you are is to remember that fundamentally you are divine. You are God expressing, because God cannot be separate if it is infinite. There can be nothing separate from that infinite divine power and presence of creation. We are the outflow of that. And every fiber of our being is holy and divine, and let us acknowledge and allow that to be the point of view from which we experience all of life. God is, I am, you are, we are. And this is a journey. This is a journey. I've recently, I was having a conversation with a colleague of mine, and we were talking about what has been described as the kingdoms of consciousness and how life is unfolding. And some of the ministers in the room will recognize the kingdoms of consciousness. There's, life is happening to me, right? That's victim consciousness. Like, oh, it's all happening to me. Life is happening through me. So there's a development as we develop our conscious awareness. Life is happening to me, then life is happening through me. Life is happening, or is it through, by, I can't remember the order. I'm getting to it though, I promise. So there's to me, through me, by me. Life is happening by me. Actually, I think I swapped those. To me, by me, through me, and then life is happening as me. The four kingdoms of consciousness that have been articulated, I think, by Michael Beckwith. I think there's a fifth kingdom of consciousness. I firmly believe that there's a fifth kingdom of consciousness that we are actively stepping into globally, despite what we see in the relative experience. And this is what I was talking about with my colleague last week. I said, I think the fifth kingdom of consciousness is that life is happening as we. That we are taking away the notion that we are islands and separate from, that we are a collective, and that as we embody and understand that we are all part of a diverse collective, life is happening as we. There are lots of constructs that seem to support this in terms of philosophical ideas and socio-political studies and all of this. We're evolving. We are in a constant state of evolving. And if we are not evolving, then we are devolving because not a single one of us remains stagnant. So I invite you to consider for a moment that you are on the evolutionary step in your conscious awareness, in your spiritual path, in every aspect of your life, rather than devolving. Because you know what happens to something that devolves too much? It devolves into oblivion. Part of my journey to self-acceptance was to play the part of what I thought I should be in the eyes of other people. It was a radical idea that I thought people had of me. And so when I came out of the closet, I thought that what it was to be a member of that particular community was to be a bit over the top. That what it was for me is that I had to be flamboyant because that's what I understood being a part of that community was to be, right? Gratefully, I went on a journey of self-discovery, and I did come to the realization that while there are aspects of me that are over the top, I don't know if you've noticed that. Shocker. And there are aspects of me that are flamboyant, but that's not the whole of my identity. That I get to express and experience the authentic divinity that is me in every aspect of my life. And so while that can be fun, I can also have fun being really serious. and I've been doing this project at home. So my husband and I, we've been working on this project at home to kind of get a lot of stuff that we've been putting, you ever have that experience where like you're at home and you put stuff to the side and you put it to the side, and then you put this other stuff to the side, and then you put this other stuff to the side, and all of a sudden you realize that everything over there on the side has grown into like almost feeling overwhelming to address. So my husband and I have been working on the overwhelm, taking it step by step, and allowing ourselves to kind of sort through all of that. And I've spent the last 2 days sitting, doing a lot of like paperwork at my desk at home, just sitting there for 2 full days, typing on the computer, doing this, right? And I had a lot of questions that came up that I had to ask my husband, and little like questions of like such minute detail about all the things that I'm trying to organize. And he just looked at me and said, "You really love this, don't you?" And I said, yeah, there's an aspect of me that really loves this, that really loves like getting into the minutia. So I can be flamboyant and I can also be focused on the minutia. They're not exclusive aspects of me. None of us are exclusively who we present ourselves to be or think we are. Not a single one of us. We can express magnificently in myriad ways. So that over-the-top me was me giving into the pressure of what I thought it was to be perceived as a member of an individual community. And I'm a member of many communities. And I thought that that perception would allow me to be perceived as impressive because I didn't give a darn about what anybody thought of me. I was going to be the me that is me, irrespective of what people's opinions were. And I think that that's not a terrible way to live. It's not a terrible way to live. Who cares what other people think? It's none of your business. Be you. Be you. Part of the expression is allowing myself to realize that that impression is always the impression of love. That's what I've come to. My expression is ultimately the result of my impression of love upon a law of mind action that is so perfect in its outflow that every aspect of my life has aligned in greater, more expressive and expansive ways. That's vibrating to the iron string and trusting myself. So that whole idea, this idea that, I had to be impressive through my flamboyant nature, that was my life BNT, before new thought. Because what I was doing is I was placing emphasis on the form, on what I thought it should look like to be something, rather than actually living from the point of view of authenticity. So the question really does become, in what ways might any one of us be allowing that idea of what the form should look like to dominate the way we experience and express among each other in this thing called life? I concern myself mostly with what it looked like to others to be me, what I thought I should look like to others, rather than what it felt like to be my authentic self. And that's why quotes, especially Emerson quotes from this essay on self-reliance, resonate so deeply with me. So I have that plaque on my wall in my office that says, "To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment." Ralph Waldo Emerson. He also offered this: one should learn to detect. It's good sometimes that I wear these and I can actually read the quote. One should learn to detect and watch that gleam of light which flashes across one's mind from within more than the luster of the firmament of bards and sages. Yet they dismiss without notice their thought because it is theirs. I'm going to read that again. It's a lot, right? This is an invitation for each and every one of us. You are the one that he's talking about. One should learn to detect and watch that gleam of light which flashes across one's mind from within. So what he's saying there is learn to detect and watch that inherent light, that inner light that flashes across because it's there. Sometimes we don't see it. So learn to detect and watch that gleam of light which flashes across one's mind from within, more than the luster of the firmament of bards and sages. He's saying more than what those people who seem to be absolute wisdom embodied and expressed are saying to you, because infinite wisdom is an attribute of divinity. It is coming through each and every one of us. We must learn to detect and allow that gleam of wisdom to do its perfect work for the outflow of our lives. And then he continues this: yet they dismiss without notice their thought because it is theirs. We let ourselves dismiss the power that we have in thought and belief and feeling, just because we have been culturalized to think that we are less than. We are not less than. We say every single week, I am magnificent. I am magnificent. What does that mean to you? Do you truly believe it? Or do you say that affirmation every single week when we say it together? I say, let's all say this together. I am magnificent, right? Is there an aspect of you that in the back of your mind is going, yeah, but there's that aspect of me that really does not align with magnificence? The level of your belief, because that's an indication of your belief, the level of your belief will set the limit to the expression of your life. So if you believe on some level that you are not wholly magnificent, you're just maybe 80% magnificent, then you're going to live an 80% life. That's hard to hear. And so my encouragement to you is to really step into the understanding that you are worthy and you are valuable because of your diverse expression as an aspect of God. When are we going to stop trying to impress the whole world and truly open to express our love, our light, our life, our infinite nature, our divinity? I want us all to consider the masks that we perhaps still are wearing in our everyday life, in any given situation, and really start to determine, is this mask that I have put upon myself, is it relevant to my full expression? I want us all to consider, where do we still conform out of fear of rejection in our interactions in everyday life? I would love for us to consider where we might overvalue our image over the essence of our being. Are we underestimating our value, our inner spiritual truth, if it isn't met with external validation? Are we underestimating our value if it isn't met with external validation? You don't need validation from anybody else. Although if you want it, I will give you validation, because I will always affirm your magnificence. Always. Can we let go of the need for external validation and start to trust that iron string of authenticity? The feeling of alignment is actually more trustworthy than the appearance of fitting in. That feeling of, I am aligned in the truth of my being. I know who I am. That is more trustworthy than the appearance of trying to fit in or trying to manipulate the circumstances around us. Diversity begins with permission. Diversity begins with permission to feel, to trust, and to express authentically with abandon. There's a value statement that I have lived by for some time, and I share it with you. You get to determine your relationship to this statement. But this is an important expression of what I hold to be of value in my life. It is this: I embrace and celebrate the individual uniqueness and contribution of all people as they express through differences of gender, ethnicity, culture, history, experience, talents, or sexual orientation. Every single person on this planet is worthy of celebration. Every single person on this planet is worthy of celebration, irrespective of their behaviors. Because their behavior may not be in alignment with the spiritual truth of their being. Every single person. I'm not going to deny I do have trouble with that sometimes, but the only reason I ever have trouble with that is because I am equating someone's beingness with their behavior. When I actively let go of the notion that someone's behavior has anything to do with their beingness, and I see through the ruse of behavior, I see the love at the core. I see the truth of their being. As I said, every single week, I look out and choose to understand and see only the faces of God. And diversity is not purely a secular concept. In fact, I think diversity is a spiritual truth in action. Like I said last week, diversity is an acknowledgement that unity, the unified wholeness, is expressing itself through infinite multiplicity. And to honor that diversity, let us choose to actively work to set aside preconceptions, to allow space for others to wholly express, to move from passive tolerance to active celebration of our fellow individuals in this thing called life. Everyone is worthy of celebration. There is work to be done. Not to manipulate that out there, but to find that celebratory nature within ourselves. We might want to begin to consider where we might still be holding on to unconscious biases that show up in our behavior and in our interaction. Really want us to start to look at what our unconscious biases are. Start to unpack that. Start to look at the way I'm interacting with every single person around me and asking the question, is this a reflection of or an expression of an unconscious bias? And if you discover something, here's the thing about it, don't beat yourself up. Just know that you are empowered to turn it around. Do you have the willingness to uncover them? That really becomes the question. Do you have the willingness to address them? In Paul's epistle to the Galatians, one of the things that has always, one of the passages from that, one of the verses from that has always resonated with my heart and has become a seat of how I choose to understand my interaction with all people, is when he wrote this: there is no longer Jew or Greek, there is no longer slave or free, there is no longer male or female, for all of you are one in Christ Jesus. And when we talk about Christ Jesus, what we're talking about is the infinite Christ consciousness. We are all one in infinite Christ consciousness. We are connected in and as Christ consciousness, just as Jesus and every mystic knew in their own way of languaging it. When we each trust that iron string, what I think is we will create divine music together in an infinite harmonious symphony. That's what I think we're stepping into. Trust the iron string in you. Honor that iron string in others. And let us create a symphony of light, of love, and inclusion. Peace and blessings. You are magnificent.